The massive crystal hall stretched beyond what human eyes could easily see. Jake Morrison stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small next to the creatures that surrounded him. The Galactic Council had gathered to decide if humans deserved a place among the stars, and right now things did not look good for Earth. 12 different alien species sat in a perfect circle around Jake and his partner Lisa Kane. Some of the aliens looked like giant insects with too many legs and glowing eyes. Others appeared to be made of pure energy that shifted colors as they moved. The largest ones had thick armor covering their entire bodies and weapons attached to their arms. Each species looked powerful in ways that humans could never match. Lisa Kane adjusted her simple uniform and tried not to show how nervous she felt. She had spent years preparing for this moment, learning about each council member species and their cultures. Nothing had prepared her for seeing them all together in one place. The weight of representing 4 billion people back on Earth made her hands shake slightly. The council speaker floated above the others, its energy form pulsing with bright blue light. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. We are gathered to evaluate the species known as humans for possible membership in our collective. State your credentials. Jake stepped forward and cleared his throat. I am Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. This is Diplomat Lisa Kane, our Chief Representative for Interspecies Relations. We come seeking friendship and partnership among the stars. A sound like grinding metal came from one of the armored beings. Friendship, it said in a voice that sounded like rocks crushing together. What use is friendship when war comes to your worlds? Can your species fight? Can you protect what is yours? The insect-like creature clicked its mandibles rapidly. Our scans show human bone density is significantly below standard survival requirements. Your muscle mass appears inadequate for most physical tasks. How do you expect to contribute to council operations with such limitations? Lisa felt her face grow hot with embarrassment. Every weakness of the human body was being laid bare before these superior beings. She had known this would happen, but hearing it spoken aloud made it feel much worse. Jake remained calm beside her, but she could see tension in his shoulders. The energy being that served as speaker began listing human deficiencies in a cold, clinical voice. Average lifespan, approximately 80 Earth years, far below council average of 300 standard years. Natural weapons, none. Natural armor, none. Resistance to radiation, minimal. Resistance to extreme temperatures, poor. Enhanced sensory capabilities, none detected. One of the creatures that looked like a walking tree with too many branches spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. Their technology appears primitive by our standards. No faster-than-light travel achieved independently. No energy manipulation. Beyond basic combustion and electricity, no evidence of advanced material science. Jake knew he had to respond before the assessment got any worse. We may not have the natural advantages that your species possess, but humans have survived and thrived on Earth for thousands of years. We have learned to adapt to every environment on our planet. The grinding voice of the armored being interrupted him. Adaptation means nothing if you cannot survive first contact with hostile forces. Your planet shows evidence of constant warfare among your own kind. How can a species that cannot achieve peace with itself expect to function in galactic society? Lisa stepped forward, finding her voice despite the intimidating surroundings. Our conflicts have taught us valuable lessons about cooperation and problem solving. We have learned to work together despite our differences. In the last century, we have made great progress toward global unity. The insect creature's eyes focused on her with unblinking intensity. Unity born from weakness is not true strength. We have observed your species for several cycles. You require artificial tools for most basic survival tasks. Your bodies cannot withstand the vacuum of space without extensive life support systems. You cannot survive in most planetary environments without significant technological assistance. The Ryu speaker's energy form shifted to a deeper blue color. The Council has standards that must be maintained. Each member species must contribute unique capabilities that enhance our collective strength. We fail to see what humans could offer that is not already available through our existing membership. Jake felt frustration building inside him, but he kept his voice steady. We understand your concerns about our physical limitations. However, we believe that diversity of approach and perspective has value beyond raw capability measurements. A new voice entered the conversation, coming from a sleek, silvery being that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Perspective is meaningless without the ability to implement solutions. Your species lacks the fundamental tools necessary for meaningful participation in council activities. The tree-like being rustled its branches in what seemed like agreement. We have reviewed human technological development patterns. Progress is slow and inefficient compared to council standards. Most innovations require significant resource investment for minimal advancement. Lisa looked around the circle of alien faces, trying to find any sign of sympathy or understanding. The assessment was going exactly as badly as their worst-case scenarios had predicted. Every question seemed designed to highlight human weaknesses rather than explore potential strengths. The speaker addressed them again, its voice carrying an undertone of finality. The council will deliberate on the information presented. However, initial evaluations suggest that human membership would provide no significant benefit to our collective, while potentially creating resource burdens. Jake refused to give up. We request the opportunity to demonstrate human capabilities through practical trials rather than theoretical assessments. Our species may surprise you if given the chance to show what we can accomplish. The armored being made another grinding sound that might have been laughter. Very well. If you insist on wasting council time with pointless demonstrations, we will provide appropriate challenges. Be aware that previous species who failed our trials were banned from reapplying for membership. The speaker's form brightened slightly. The council will reconvene after you have been given opportunity to prove your claims. Prepare yourselves, humans. The trials ahead will test everything your species believes about its own worth. As the aliens began to file out of the crystal chamber, Jake and Lisa stood alone in the vast space. The weight of their species' future pressed down on them like a physical force. They had known the assessment would be difficult, but the complete dismissal of human potential felt like a devastating blow. Lisa looked at Jake with worry in her eyes. They see us as nothing more than primitive weaklings. How are we supposed to prove our worth to beings who view us as inferior in every possible way? Jake squared his shoulders and met her gaze with determination. We do what humans have always done when facing impossible odds. We find a way to turn our weaknesses into strengths. The trials are just beginning. The war chamber materialized around them like a nightmare made real. Council War Master Cruven stood at the center of the holographic display, his massive armored form casting shadows across the projected landscape. The Thaknori warrior's mandibles clicked with what sounded like amusement as he gestured toward the hellish world spinning before them. Behold Kepler 442c, Cruven announced, his voice echoing through the chamber like metal scraping against stone. A world that has claimed the lives of 3 species who thought themselves worthy of council membership. Solar radiation levels exceed safety parameters by 400%. Atmospheric toxicity would kill most carbon-based life forms within hours. Surface temperatures fluctuate between extremes that would freeze or boil most known biological compounds. Jake Morrison studied the planet's surface through the holographic display. Massive storms raged across continents covered in twisted metal formations and crystal spires that glowed with deadly radiation. The thin atmosphere crackled, with energy discharges that could probably kill a human instantly. It looked like the worst parts of Earth's most dangerous environments combined into one impossible challenge. Lisa Kane felt her stomach drop as Cruven continued his explanation. Your task is simple. Survive on this world for 30 rotations, with minimal equipment. Previous species attempted to use their natural advantages to overcome the hostile environment. The rock eaters tried to burrow deep underground but could not escape the radiation. The energy shapers attempted to absorb the solar storms, but were overwhelmed and destroyed. The metal benders tried to construct massive shelters but could not adapt quickly enough to the changing conditions. The other council members watched from elevated platforms surrounding the war chamber. Their expressions ranged from curious to openly skeptical. The insect-like hive mind Prime chittered softly to itself while making notes on a device that looked like living crystal. The energy beings pulsed with colors that seemed to indicate either interest or amusement at human foolishness. Captain Ryan Clark stepped forward from the human delegation. He had volunteered to lead the survival team despite knowing the odds were heavily against success. "What equipment will we be provided for this trial?" Creuven's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "Standard atmospheric processors for breathable air, basic radiation shielding that will protect you for approximately 72 hours, emergency food supplies for 15 rotations, and simple construction tools. Nothing more advanced than what your own technology could produce." Ryan nodded and turned to address his team of 49 other humans who had volunteered for the mission. Engineer Amy Watson checked her equipment pack one final time. Medic Peter Hayes reviewed his supply of radiation medicine and basic medical tools. Geologist Sam Tucker studied the mineral composition data they had been given about the planet's surface. "Remember what we discussed," Ryan told his team quietly. "We are not trying to fight this planet or conquer it. We are going to learn from it and work with it. Every challenge it presents is also an opportunity if we approach it correctly." The rare transport ship carried them down through the planet's chaotic atmosphere. Lightning storms battered their small vessel while toxic gases tried to eat through the hull plating. When they finally landed on the surface, the humans found themselves in a landscape that seemed designed to kill anything foolish enough to visit. Amy Watson immediately began collecting samples of the strange crystalline formations while wearing her radiation suit. "These crystal structures are actually absorbing and redirecting the solar radiation," she reported over the team's communication system. "They are not just random formations. This planet has a natural system for managing energy flow." Peter Hayes set up a medical station inside their temporary shelter while monitoring radiation exposure levels for the entire team. "We have about 60 hours before our shielding becomes ineffective," he announced. "After that, we need to find natural protection or find a way to improve our defenses." Sam Tucker was studying the ground composition near their landing site. "The soil contains metallic compounds that seem to be naturally resistant to radiation. If we can figure out how to use these materials, we might be able to extend our protection time." Ryan watched his team work with growing pride. Instead of panicking about their desperate situation, every human was focusing on understanding their new environment. They were not trying to impose Earth solutions on an alien world. They were learning how this world had solved its own problems and seeing if those solutions could help humans survive. By the end of the first rotation, Amy had identified 17 different crystal types that each handled radiation in unique ways. Peter had developed a treatment plan using local minerals to help the human body process small amounts of radiation exposure. Sam had located underground water sources that were naturally filtered by the planet's crystal formations. The Council observers watched with growing interest as the humans began their second rotation. Instead of hiding in their shelters and waiting for rescue, the survival team was actively exploring and experimenting. They built small test structures using local materials to see how well they could deflect radiation. They studied the timing of the solar storms to predict safe periods for outside work. Amy Watson made the breakthrough on Rotation 5 when she discovered that certain crystal combinations could be grown rather than just mined. "The crystals respond to specific electromagnetic frequencies," she explained excitedly to Ryan. "We can actually encourage them to grow in patterns that will protect us better than our artificial shielding." Peter Hayes had been working with Sam Tucker to develop what they called adaptation protocols. Human metabolism can actually adjust to low-level radiation exposure if we introduce it gradually while using these local mineral supplements, Peter reported. "We are essentially teaching our bodies to work with this environment instead of fighting against it." By Rotation 10, the humans had constructed underground chambers lined with cultivated crystals that provided better radiation protection than their original equipment. They had established water purification systems using natural filtration methods they learned from studying the planet's geology. They had even begun growing modified earth plants in soil treated with local minerals. The council observers were no longer making jokes about human weakness. War Master Creuven found himself studying the human approach with genuine curiosity instead of amusement. They are not trying to dominate the environment, he commented to the other council members. They are learning to become part of it. By Rotation 15. The humans had established 3 separate underground settlements connected by crystal-lined tunnels that provided safe passage during solar storms. They had learned to predict weather patterns and use them to their advantage, rather than simply enduring them. Amy's crystal gardens were producing energy that powered their equipment more efficiently than their original power cells. Rotation 20 brought the most impressive development yet. The humans had figured out how to use the planet's own solar radiation as a power source by channeling it through their cultivated crystal networks. What had been the greatest threat to their survival was now providing abundant clean energy for their growing settlements. Peter Hayes reported that the entire team was not just surviving but actually thriving in the harsh environment. Our adaptation protocols have been so successful that several team members are actually healthier now than when we arrived, he announced. The mineral supplements and controlled radiation exposure seem to be strengthening our immune systems. By Rotation 25, the human settlement had grown beyond mere survival into something approaching a permanent colony. They had transformed barren ground into productive gardens. They had built comfortable living spaces that used natural climate control. They had even begun developing new technologies based on principles they learned from the planet's natural systems. The final rotation brought council observers down to the planet's surface for the first time. What they found was not a desperate group of humans barely clinging to life, but a thriving community that had turned a death world into a garden paradise. Amy Watson gave them a tour of the crystal energy systems that now provided more power than the settlement could use. Sam Tucker showed them underground rivers that had been expanded into a comprehensive water management network. Peter Hayes demonstrated how humans had adapted to not just survive, but flourish in an environment that had killed 3 other species. Ryan Clark stood with the council observers at the edge of what had once been a barren landing site, and was now a green space filled with earth plants growing alongside alien crystal formations. We did not try to make this world like Earth, he explained. We learned to make ourselves better suited for this world while also making this world better suited for life. War Master Cruven looked around the transformed landscape with something approaching respect in his ancient eyes. In 30 rotations you have accomplished what we believed impossible. You have not just survived Kepler 4m42c, you have made it livable. Warstratark Velmoth paced the command deck of his flagship with predatory grace. The Zefkari Empire had dominated galactic politics for 3,000 cycles through superior firepower and ruthless efficiency. The idea that primitive humans might gain council membership without proving their worth in battle filled him with disgust that burned like acid in his multi-chambered stomach. The humans have been fortunate in their trials, Velmoth growled to his tactical officers. Survival and technology repair are useful skills, but they mean nothing when facing an enemy that wants to destroy you completely. The council has grown soft by allowing species to join without proving their combat worthiness. The massive Zefkari warrior studied tactical displays showing the human vessel New Horizon conducting what the humans believed was a joint training exercise with council forces. Captain Nicole Brooks commanded the ship with a crew of 200 humans who had no idea they were about to face a test that could determine their species' future among the stars. Communications Officer Danny Ross monitored channels between the various council ships participating in the exercise. The humans had been told this was a standard coordination drill to test their ability to work alongside alien military forces. They had no reason to suspect that some of those forces might be preparing to attack them. Chief Engineer Kate Bell reported that all human systems were operating at peak efficiency. The New Horizon represented the best of human space technology, though it was still primitive compared to most council vessels. Its armor was thin, its weapons were limited, and its defensive systems were barely adequate for protecting against space debris, much less military assault. Velmoth activated his private communication system to coordinate with other Zefkari vessels positioned throughout the exercise area. Phase 1 begins now, he commanded. Make the attack appear overwhelming but not immediately fatal. We want to see how humans respond when faced with impossible odds and certain death. The first wave of weapons fire caught the human ship completely, off guard. Plasma bolts that could have destroyed them instantly instead disabled their main engines and damaged their communication array. Nicole Brooks felt her ship shudder under impacts that should have killed everyone aboard, but somehow left them alive and helpless. "Report," Nicole shouted as her bridge crew scrambled to assess the damage. "Who is attacking us and why?" Danny Ross fought to restore communications while his equipment sparked and smoked around him. "Multiple Zefkari vessels have opened fire on us," he reported in disbelief. "This cannot be part of the exercise. Their weapons are set to destroy, not disable." Kate Bell's voice came through the internal communication system from the engine room. "Main drive is offline and we have hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Emergency power is holding, but we cannot maneuver or defend ourselves effectively." Nicole stared at the tactical display showing Zefkari warships closing in for what appeared to be a killing blow. Her mind raced through possible responses as she realized that humanity was facing its first real test of warfare in space. Everything they had accomplished meant nothing if they could not survive this moment. The expected response would have been to surrender immediately, or to fight back with whatever weapons the human ship possessed. Some species might have tried to flee despite their damaged engines. Others might have attempted to negotiate or bargain for their lives. Nicole Brooks chose a different path that would shock every observer. "Danny, open communications on all frequencies," she ordered. "Broadcast to every ship in this area, including our attackers." Danny managed to restore partial communication capability despite the damage to their systems. "All channels open, Captain. Every vessel within range will receive our transmission." Nicole stood in the center of her damaged bridge and began speaking, with calm determination. "This is Captain Nicole Brooks of the human vessel New Horizon. We are under attack and cannot defend ourselves effectively. Rather than surrender or attempt futile resistance, we choose to share our defensive innovations with all vessels in this area, including those currently firing upon us." Kate Bell immediately understood her captain's strategy and began transmitting technical specifications for human defensive systems to every ship within communication range. The data included improvements to shield harmonics, power distribution, efficiency, and damage control procedures that human engineers had developed. "Our shield modulation techniques can increase energy absorption by 18%, Kate announced over the open channel. "Our emergency power routing systems can maintain life support even after primary systems failure. Our hull breach containment procedures can save lives during combat damage." Danny Ross took up the broadcast as he transmitted tactical coordination protocols that human military forces had developed. "Our formation flying techniques reduce vulnerability to focused fire. Our damage assessment procedures help identify critical system failures quickly. Our crew rotation schedules maintain effectiveness during extended combat operations." The Zefkari attack formation slowed as their commanders tried to understand what the humans were attempting to accomplish. Velmoth found himself studying human technical data instead of pressing his assault. The defensive improvements were clearly effective and could benefit Zefkari forces in future conflicts. Other council ships began implementing human suggestions and immediately noticed improvements in their defensive capabilities. The Kethamori vessels reported better shield efficiency, while the Thaknori ships found that human damage control procedures helped them recover from simulated weapon hits more quickly. Nicole continued her broadcast as Zefkari weapons fire became less focused and more hesitant. "We recognize that this may be a test of human worthiness for council membership. We choose to demonstrate our value not through combat prowess, but through our ability to make everyone stronger." Commander Yextar of the Kethmori science vessel interrupted his participation in the attack to study human technical innovations more carefully. "These defensive modifications are remarkably effective," he transmitted to the other council ships. "Implementation could improve survival rates across all our fleets." Even some of the Zefkari warriors began to question their orders as they realized the humans were offering genuine military advantages rather than simply trying to save themselves. Junior officers reported improved system performance after implementing human suggestions, making them reluctant to destroy the source of such valuable innovations. Nicole made her final appeal directly to the Zefkari fleet commander. War Stratarch Velmoth, we know this attack is your doing. We could attempt to fight you and die bravely, or we could surrender and live shamefully. Instead, we offer you something more valuable than either victory or defeat. We offer you the chance to make your forces more effective and your warriors safer. Velmoth found himself in an impossible situation. His warriors were reporting significant improvements to their combat effectiveness after implementing human defensive techniques. Destroying the humans would eliminate a source of military innovation that could benefit the entire Zefkari Empire. Continuing the attack would make him responsible for losing valuable tactical advantages. Kate Bell transmitted the final piece of human military technology that would seal their fate. Our adaptive combat algorithms can predict enemy attack patterns and automatically adjust defensive systems to counter them. Implementation requires cooperation between multiple vessels, but provides protection that increases with fleet size. The implications hit every Council observer simultaneously. Human military technology was designed around cooperation and mutual support rather than individual superiority. Their defensive systems became more effective when shared among allies, rather than being hoarded for competitive advantage. Velmoth felt his certainty crumbling as he realized the humans had turned his test of warfare into a demonstration of something far more powerful than combat ability. They had shown that their approach to conflict could make every participant stronger, rather than simply determining winners and losers. Ceasefire, Velmoth commanded his fleet with reluctance that surprised him. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that deserve further evaluation. Nicole Brooks stood on her damaged bridge surrounded by smoke and sparks, but her voice remained steady as she addressed the mixed fleet of Council vessels. If our defensive technologies can protect our ship, they can protect yours as well. We believe everyone survives when we share our knowledge, rather than hoarding it for ourselves. The aftermath of the encounter left every Council member struggling to understand what they had witnessed. The humans had faced certain destruction and responded by making their attackers stronger. They had turned a test of warfare into a demonstration of cooperation that challenged everything the Council understood about conflict and survival. Danny Ross reported that 17 different species had implemented human defensive improvements and were requesting additional technical specifications. Kate Bell announced that the cooperative combat algorithms were showing promising results in initial testing by mixed species fleets. Nicole Brooks looked out at the Council ships surrounding her damaged vessel and realized that humanity had passed a test they had never been intended to survive. The great crystal chamber fell silent as the Council prepared for final deliberation. 12 species had gathered to decide humanity's fate, but the atmosphere had changed dramatically since the first assessment. Where once there had been dismissive certainty about human inadequacy, now there was uncertainty about what humanity truly represented. Council Speaker Zix Thera floated above the assembly, its energy form shifting through colors that indicated deep contemplation. The traditional voting procedure called for private deliberation among Council members, but Jake Morrison requested permission to address the assembly one final time. Lisa Kane stood beside him, both humans aware that this moment would determine not just their species' future, but possibly the future of the entire galactic community. Honored members of the Council, Jake began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. We have completed your trials and demonstrated human capabilities in survival, innovation, and conflict resolution. But before you vote on our membership, we would like to present something that none of the previous applicant species have offered. The request surprised every Council member. Previous species had used their final moments to plead for acceptance or to showcase their greatest achievements. None had ever suggested that they could offer something entirely new to the Council's ancient traditions. Lisa Kane activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber with data spanning thousands of years. We have studied the history of every Council member species and the collective achievements of your alliance. What we discovered troubles us greatly and offers an opportunity that could benefit everyone present. The display showed technological development curves for each council species over the past 3 millennia. The pattern was identical across every civilization: rapid advancement, followed by gradual stagnation after joining the council. Innovation had slowed to a crawl, and new discoveries had become increasingly rare. Jake pointed to the data with growing confidence. Every species here achieved greatness in isolation, then joined the council to maintain that status rather than continue growing. When did any of you last truly innovate together? When did any of you last face a challenge that forced you to become better than you were before? The assembled aliens stirred uneasily as the implications of the human analysis became clear. Warmaster Kruven's mandibles clicked with agitation while Hive Mind Prime Nextar's compound eyes focused intently on the data projections. The energy beings pulsed with colors that suggested discomfort or surprise. Lisa continued the presentation, with historical examples that painted an uncomfortable picture of council stagnation. The communication technology we repaired was 8,000 years old and superior to anything any of you have built since joining this alliance. The survival techniques we developed on Kepler 442c were innovations that none of your species had attempted despite having access to that world for centuries. The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The Council had become a museum of past achievements rather than a community dedicated to continued growth and exploration. Each species contributed their ancient knowledge but rarely developed new capabilities through cooperation and shared effort. Jake made the observation that would change everything. You called our weaknesses our limitations, but we have discovered that they are actually our greatest strengths. We cannot survive alone, so we have learned to make everything around us better. We cannot dominate through superior technology, so we improve existing systems through adaptation and innovation. Ryan Clark's voice came through the communication array from Kepler 442c, where the human colony continued to thrive and expand. The planet you sent us to survive on has become a garden world that could support multiple species comfortably. We did not just adapt to the environment, we improved it while learning to live in harmony with its natural systems. Alex Turner's report followed from the technology laboratory, where the repaired Zethkari communication device continued to exceed original performance specifications. The device we were asked to repair now functions better than its creators ever imagined. We did not copy their technology. We combined their principles with human innovation to create something greater than either could achieve alone. Nicole Brooks transmitted from the New Horizon, which had become the center of the first truly cooperative military exercise in Council history. The defensive systems we shared during the combat trial have been adopted by 7 different species and improved through their contributions. We did not just survive the attack. We turned it into an opportunity for everyone to become stronger. The Council chamber remained silent as the full scope of human potential became clear. These beings had not just passed the traditional trials, they had transformed every challenge into an opportunity for improvement and growth that benefited everyone involved. Lisa presented the final piece of their analysis with quiet conviction. In 10,000 years of Council history, no species has offered to make you better, rather than simply join you. We are not asking for membership to gain access to your ancient knowledge. We are offering membership to help you rediscover your capacity for growth and innovation. Council Speaker Sixathera's energy form brightened as understanding dawned. You are suggesting that the Council itself has become stagnant and requires transformation to continue serving its original purpose of advancing galactic civilization. Jake nodded with respect for the speaker's insight. The Council was created to pool the greatest achievements of multiple species for the benefit of all. But somewhere along the way it became focused on preserving those achievements rather than building upon them. We offer a different approach. The human proposal was unprecedented in its scope and ambition. Rather than simply joining the existing Council structure, humanity was suggesting a fundamental reorganization based on cooperation, adaptation, and continuous improvement rather than competitive dominance and status preservation. Nextar spoke for the first time since the trials began, its voice carrying harmonics of genuine curiosity. What specific changes do you propose to Council operations and membership requirements? Lisa outlined a comprehensive plan that had emerged from studying both council history and human organizational principles. Replace competitive trials with cooperative projects that benefit all participants. Establish research partnerships between species with complementary capabilities. Create shared colonies where different civilizations can learn from each other while solving common challenges. The scope of the proposal extended far beyond traditional membership applications. Humans were offering to help redesign galactic civilization itself based on principles of mutual improvement rather than hierarchical dominance. War Master Velmoth, who had opposed human membership most strongly, found himself considering the military implications of cooperative development. Your defensive innovations improved combat effectiveness across multiple species within hours of implementation. Applied systematically, such cooperation could advance military science by centuries within decades. Even the most conservative council members began to recognize the potential benefits of the human approach. Ancient rivalries and competitive advantages seemed less important when compared to the possibility of genuine advancement through shared effort and combined innovation. Council Speaker Zixthera called for the formal vote with energy patterns that indicated both excitement and apprehension. The question before us is no longer whether humanity deserves membership in our council. The question is whether we deserve the opportunity they are offering to transform our council into something greater than it has ever been. The vote was unanimous, but more significant than simple acceptance. Every council member voted not just to admit humanity, but to restructure the entire galactic alliance based on human principles of cooperation, adaptation, and continuous improvement. Jake Morrison and Lisa Kane stood in the crystal chamber as representatives of a species that had been dismissed as too weak for galactic civilization. They had proven that their greatest weaknesses were actually revolutionary strengths that could transform the entire galaxy. The Council had witnessed humanity turn weakness into ultimate power, but they had also discovered that ultimate power was not about domination or superiority. Ultimate power was about the ability to make everything better through cooperation, innovation, and the simple recognition that everyone grows stronger when they grow together. As the great crystal chamber filled with the energy signatures of 12 species committed to a new vision of galactic civilization, the humans realized they had accomplished something far greater than gaining membership in an ancient alliance. They had helped create the foundation for a future where the greatest achievements would come not from individual species, but from the combined potential of all civilizations working together toward common goals. The Council had been transformed from a collection of ancient powers into a community of growing civilizations, and humanity had proven that the ultimate strength was not the ability to stand alone, but the wisdom to help others stand taller. The science laboratory hummed with energy that made the hair on human arms stand up. Hive Mind Prime Nextar moved through the space on 6 legs, while its compound eyes tracked dozens of different experiments happening simultaneously. The insectoid being's attention focused on a device sitting in the center of the room, like a technological altar waiting for worship or destruction. This communication array belonged to the Zethkari civilization, Nextar explained, its voice creating harmonic frequencies that human ears found slightly painful. They achieved faster-than-light communication across galactic distances before their extinction 12,000 cycles ago. The device has been non-functional for 8,000 cycles despite our best repair efforts. Alex Turner circled the alien device slowly, taking in every detail of its construction. The communication array stood 3 meters tall and was covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Crystalline components jutted from a central core made of metal that appeared to bend light around itself. Energy conduits snaked between layers of technology that human science could barely identify as artificial, rather than organic. Grace Park knelt beside the device's base, running her scanner over connection points that defied human understanding of engineering principles. The power distribution system does not follow any logical pattern that Earth technology would recognize, she said quietly to Alex. It looks like the energy flows through the crystal matrix in ways that should be impossible according to our physics. Ben Carter approached from the other side. His archaeological training focused on understanding the minds that created this technology, rather than the technology itself. The symbol patterns suggest a mathematical approach fundamentally different from human methods, he observed. These beings thought about information transmission in ways we have never considered. Nextar's mandibles clicked with what sounded like impatience. The Council's greatest scientific minds have studied this device for generations. We understand its purpose and general function, but cannot comprehend the underlying principles that make operation possible. Previous species attempted to apply their natural technological advantages to force the device into working condition. The insectoid being gestured toward data displays showing past attempts at repair. The Kethmori tried to replace damaged components with their advanced crystalline matrices, but could not achieve proper energy resonance. The Veltar attempted to interface directly with the device's energy patterns, but were rejected by incompatible frequencies. The Thaknori used brute force engineering to rebuild entire sections but could not recreate the delicate balance required for operation. Alex Turner looked up from his examination of the device's exterior housing. What exactly do you expect us to accomplish that these advanced species could not manage? Nextar's compound eyes focused on the human with intensity that felt uncomfortable. We expect you to fail, just as the others failed. This trial exists to demonstrate the limits of human technological understanding when faced with truly advanced engineering principles. Grace Park had been quietly taking measurements and recordings of the device from every possible angle. May we have access to all previous research data and repair attempts, she asked. Understanding what did not work might help us avoid making the same mistakes. The request seemed to surprise Nextar, whose head tilted in a way that suggested confusion. Previous species demanded access to our most advanced analytical equipment and unlimited resources for their repair attempts. You request only information about failures. Ben Carter looked up from his study of the symbol patterns. Failures often teach us more than successes. If we understand why previous approaches did not work, we can develop different strategies, rather than repeating the same errors with slightly different methods. Over the following days, the human team did something that none of the previous species had attempted. Instead of trying to understand the entire device at once, they began taking it apart piece by piece to study individual components in isolation. Each part was carefully documented and analyzed before being examined in combination with other parts. Alex Turner focused on the physical structure and engineering approaches used in construction. The Zethkari built this device using principles of modular redundancy, he explained to his teammates. Each section can function independently while contributing to the overall system performance. Grace Park worked on understanding the energy flow patterns through mathematical analysis, rather than trying to directly interface with alien technology. Their approach to faster-than-light communication appears to use quantum entanglement principles, but applied in ways we have never considered, she discovered. They are not sending information faster than light. They are creating synchronized quantum states across vast distances. Ben Carter studied historical records and archaeological evidence to understand how the Zethkari civilization approached problem-solving and innovation. Their entire technological philosophy was based on harmony between natural phenomena and artificial enhancement, he learned. They did not try to force nature to obey their technology. They designed technology to work with natural forces. The breakthrough came when Grace realized that human mathematics could model the quantum entanglement effects, even if human technology could not directly create them. We do not need to build Zethkari technology, she announced excitedly. We need to build human technology that achieves the same results using our own understanding of physics. Alex began designing replacement components using Earth materials and human engineering principles. Instead of trying to recreate alien crystal matrices, he built quantum processors using modified human computer technology. Instead of copying alien energy conduits, he designed power distribution systems based on Earth electrical engineering enhanced with principles learned from studying the original device. Ben Carter's archaeological insights provided the key to making everything work together. The Zethkari designed this device to be maintained and repaired by future civilizations, he realized. The modular construction was meant to allow other species to replace damaged sections with their own technology, as long as the core principles were preserved. The repair process took 3 weeks of careful work. Each human-built replacement component was tested individually before being integrated into the larger system. Grace's mathematical models guided the energy calibration process, while Alex's engineering solutions provided the physical framework for quantum communication effects. When they finally activated the repaired device, the results exceeded everyone's expectations. Not only did the communication array function properly, but human modifications had improved its efficiency by 37% over original specifications. The device could now maintain stable quantum entanglement across greater distances, while using significantly less power than Zethkari engineering had required. Nextar studied the repair work with fascination that bordered on disbelief. How did you achieve improvements over technology that was already beyond your civilization's understanding? The insectoid being demanded. Grace Park explained their approach with enthusiasm. We did not try to copy technology we could not understand. We studied the underlying principles and then applied our own methods to achieve the same goals. Human engineering may be less advanced, but it is more adaptable to different applications. Alex Turner showed Nextar the human-built components that had replaced alien systems. Our materials science is primitive compared to Zethkari crystal technology, but our modular design approach allowed us to build replacement parts that interface properly with their original systems while providing enhanced functionality. Carter presented his analysis of Zethkari technological philosophy. Their civilization designed this device to evolve and improve through interaction with other species. They expected future civilizations to contribute their own innovations, rather than simply copying existing solutions. The council observers who had gathered to witness the expected human failure found themselves studying a working communication array that performed better than its original design specifications. The impossible had been accomplished through an approach that none of the advanced species had considered. Nextar's compound eyes focused on each human team member in turn. Your species accomplished in 3 weeks what the Council's greatest minds could not achieve in generations of effort. How do you explain this success? Grace smiled as she gestured toward the device humming with quantum energy. We succeeded because we approached the problem differently than everyone else. Instead of trying to prove our superiority over Zethkari technology, we learned from it and built upon it using our own strengths. Alex nodded in agreement. Advanced technology is impressive, but adaptable technology is more useful. We may not be able to build crystal matrices that manipulate quantum forces directly, but we can build quantum processors that achieve the same results using methods we understand and can improve upon. Ben Carter made the final observation that would change how the Council viewed human potential. The Zethkari built this device to be a bridge between their civilization and future species. We did not repair their technology. We completed their vision by adding human innovation to their foundation.